Hello and congratulations. If you're watching this video, this is the last video in our What to Expect When Buying a House series. And so hopefully you have watched all of the other videos, which I am happy to include a link to that entire playlist if this is your first time here. My name is Heather Wright. I'm a real estate agent in Des Moines, selling homes in the Greater Des Moines area at Remax Concepts. And this video is everything else you need to know that helps get you to the closing table. About 2 weeks before closing, someone from my team, my assistant, me, someone who knows who it's going to be, we're going to send you an email that says you need to schedule your utilities. So you want to make sure that you have power, because if you're moving in the summer, you want air conditioning. And if it's dark, you probably want light. And if you're moving in January, you definitely want some heat. So you're going to want to call the power company and the water company because you'd probably like to use the water. And if it's winter time, you definitely don't want the water to be shut off because it's just a bad idea to have the water and God forbid the furnace shut off in the dead of winter. And actually, I don't even think the utility companies will do that because they don't want your pipes to freeze. So I've probably done enough scaring of people in this video series, but trust me when I tell you that in January and February, you do not want your pipes to freeze because you failed to call the power company and put the heat in your name. So we'll remind you and we'll give you the phone numbers to call. You just have to call and set up the utilities in your name. Now, utility that is not required to protect your house, but you're probably going to want is internet. So you're going to want to determine who you want for internet and definitely set that appointment up well enough in advance so that you don't have to go for a lot of time without internet, because I know I would suffer greatly if I didn't have internet access at my new home. So call me spoiled. I am. And that's just the world that we live in today. Then, about a week before closing, we're going to schedule a final walkthrough. The final walkthrough will happen a day or two before closing. And the purpose of the final walkthrough is to make sure that the sellers have left the house in the same condition that it was in when you made your offer, normal wear and tear accepted. So that means that, of course, they've been living there. And of course, they've now moved out, probably, or they've got their stuff packed up anyway. And if you go in there and you say, well, there are nail holes here. Yes, there used to be art hanging on those nail holes. That is normal wear and tear. So that is not a real problem. But if you go in for your final walkthrough and there's a giant hole in the wall, well, that is new information and not normal wear and tear. So now we have a problem. Final walkthroughs are generally anticlimactic. You walk through, everything's fine, and along you go. But sometimes you find a problem. And when that problem, like a big hole in the wall, or maybe the dishwasher has leaked all over the floor and nobody knew because they left, or who knows what could have happened. When you find a problem, then that's when we need to get the sellers involved to fix the problem. So I know there are a lot of agents who will do their final walkthrough an hour before closing, and that's fine. But if there is a problem, then there's not a lot of time for the seller to have to fix the problem. So that's why I like to do it a day or two before closing, just to give everybody enough time to get it together in the event that they need to. Then it's going to be closing day. So closings happen Monday through Friday, usually between 9 a.m. and 4:30 p.m., banker's hours. And so your closing might be at the bank, it might be at a law office, it might be at an escrow closing company office. Just show up at the address that your lender gives you at the time they tell you to be there. And you're going to need to bring a photo ID and, of course, your down payment, your big check, because today is the day you're going to sign that over in exchange for a house. Closing takes about 30 minutes and your hand is going to hurt by the time you're done because you're going to have to initial a bunch of documents that all essentially say the same thing. The terms of your mortgage, the interest rate that you're getting, it's going to say that your interest rate cannot be changed with any of these documents. It's going to outline how much money you're borrowing and how much it's going to cost you to pay it all back. And then you're going to have a mortgage that you have to sign that essentially says, If you don't pay, you don't stay. The rules of how they can foreclose on you. If you don't pay, you don't stay. And so a bunch of other documents because, when there's lawyers involved, there's paperwork involved. And then finally, once all the paperwork, and it's a big pile of paperwork that's a couple of inches thick. So your hand is going to hurt from all of the signing that you've done. But then you're going to be a homeowner and you will officially be living the American dream, home ownership, perhaps with a little bit of debt, but that's okay. You've got 30 years to pay it off. And at that point, I'll hand over the keys and you can be on your way. Depending on how we negotiated the offer, you may or may not have possession at the time of closing. It's possible that you sweetened your deal a little bit and gave the seller a couple of days extra where they could live in the house, even though you closed and you owned it, but they could have possession after closing to give them time to move and get organized. It's a nice thing that doesn't really cost you any money to be able to offer that to sellers, especially when you're competing against somebody else. Then it might give you a leg up without necessarily increasing your price. So once the time that was agreed upon in the contract has arrived, whether it was at the time of closing or 5 p.m., 2 days after closing, whatever you wrote in the contract, whenever that time arrives, that's when you can take possession of your home. And that's also when you're on your own because I don't do moving. Sorry. I can help you find movers. I can help you do lots of things, but the actual act of moving, not my jam. But it'll be your jam. It'll be really exciting and you're going to love every minute of it and finding the perfect place for all of your belongings in your new home. It's going to be great. And that's it. That's everything you can expect when buying a home in Des Moines, from getting pre-approved to shopping for homes and making the offer and everything that happens after the offer up to the day you get to take possession of your new home or new to you home. So hopefully this has been educational, perhaps a little entertaining, but really the purpose was to be educational, to give you the confidence to know how to handle each step of the process. Even though we're there to hold your hand through the entire process, I still think it helps alleviate a little bit of that stress of not knowing what comes next because we just told you what comes next. So if you are looking for a real estate team in the Greater Des Moines area, call me. We can have fun like this all the time. And if not with me, my team is just as fun. So we would love to interview for the job and see if we are a good fit. And you can also shop for your next home at our website, DesMoinesHouseHunters.com. I'll talk to you soon.